I think we could all breathe a little bit now. Starfield is out. David, you reviewed it.
I can
sure
breathe
you
much
are.
better.
Yeah, you can probably
So
sleep
relieved.
at night. The exhale has been done. The reviews are out. David, you gave it a 90. The Open Critic is an 88. Sitting at an 88 right now on Open Critic. 94% critics recommend, but the reviews still kind of range anywhere between 100 and 50 or 5 out of 10 for some people. So it's not this, kind of Breath of the Wild or, maybe Tears of the Kingdom just level of everybody's just scoring it 9s and 10s. But in your opinion, David, with what you've played, you rolled the credits, gave it a 90. Does Starfield save Xbox?
No.
Wow. Why? How does it not save Xbox? It scored well. It's almost everything everybody wanted. Why?
Starfield doesn't save Xbox because Xbox has to save Xbox.
I am confused. You said this was Microsoft. This is Xbox's most important game.
It
Even
is
above Halo.
It is the most important game, but this has to be. It is fantastic. They did a great job with this game, as you said, 90 out of 100. This has to be the Kickstarter of good content. This cannot just be a blip of content. If you are so sold on gaming subscriptions, which at this point are stagnating in this market, the evidence is all out there with statistics and everything. Everybody is raising their price. Why? Because they have peaked. Starfield cannot be Xbox's savior for the sheer sake of it. It can be the start of what they need to do. But when we get to next year and Hellblade 2 comes out and Avowed comes out and all these other games that come out, Phil stood on the game, did this Gamescom interviews and was like, yep, we're here. We're ready to hit that one every quarter. Phil, it is not time to start making promises again. That we have all had that discussion on. It's not necessarily that we don't believe you, Phil. It's that game development is fickle. It's that sometimes a game just has to be delayed an extra 3 months or so. So you can't just promise that when you can't completely be sure on it. Can you say it looks like we're getting there, or we're definitely going to have 4 good great games this year, or something around that? You could try to get into that, but to me, Starfield, yes, it is a phenomenal start. It's where you have to start it. It's so important because this has to be the most important thing for a runner. You got to get that good start off the line to get around the track. You got to get that good start, but you got to finish.
Noah, your face was contorting. I saw it.
Yeah, very much contorting. So my thing is you're talking about this is the starting point, right? So wouldn't that be it saving it if this is what kickstarts that turnaround?
I mean, you can throw a, what is the term for it? A life preserver into the water close to me, and that is the beginning of the process. But I am not saved just because a life preserver is in the water. You have to pull me on board.
But without throwing that life preserver out, you wouldn't have been saved at all. So isn't the beginning act?
I may still not make it back to the boat. I may not make it back to the boat, even if the preserver's there.
David's saying those
that doesn't mean I'm saved.
waters are still cold. You got to get out the water.
Wear a hoodie,
Yep.
okay?
You have to keep moving, and the space again is so fickle when it comes to subscriptions and all of these things. And I get it. Xbox is still figuring out what they want to do, how they want to continue to approach things, but they are in that they are in these subscription waters, whether they like it or not, because they promise day one on everything. So Starfield, that's exactly where you want to start with it, but you can't. If Starfield's it, and every other game after this that we have been sold is awful, it doesn't help.
I do think there is a level of salvation for Xbox on this. Maybe not in the sense of they have gotten out of the hole necessarily. I think there's a level of agreement I can have with that. There's might still be in the hole, and now this is the kickstart. Now the engine is starting. I would consider this more resuscitation for Xbox. Like, they were pretty much dead to everybody, especially after Halo Infinite. This resuscitated them. Like, they are the heart monitor is going, it's dipping, it's going up and down as it should. So in that regard, I would say, yes, Starfield, it sounds like Starfield has saved Xbox. So with that said, what else are we going to talk about today? Let's spin the wheel, shall we?
I have no earthly idea.
If it lands on in the podcast, I'm going to lose it.
I am just curious.
I have my finger over
I was waiting. I was like, is it going to hit it?
There's got to be Star. Okay. Remove all the instances on this one.
Yeah.
All right. I just had to do that for fun. We're talking about Starfield this entire podcast.
Oh, yeah.
This it's too big to not. It's one of those games that blots out the sun. So
really is.
You played this, David. You gave it a 90. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. So you can start off wherever you want. We're just gonna have fun with this today.
First off, it might blot out the sun, but you can't walk on the sun, so it's an awful game.
Why did you take my quote from Twitter? Or X, or whatever it's called. Almost copying my words.
Oh man, the fact that was even like this huge deal to somebody just makes me laugh. But anyways,
somebody
Starfield
actually complained that they couldn't walk on the sun.
Not on the sun, but on like Jupiter or one of the gas giants or something like that. And it's like, yeah, fam, it's pretty obvious why you cannot walk on this. Like, it makes sense.
I think, yeah, I guess it would make more sense, like, as a complaint, I can't fly through Jupiter. Okay, maybe okay.
Makes
I can
sense.
see that. But walk, okay. How is Starfield?
Starfield, so let me preface this. This game has been a dream game for me for a long time. Noah's probably remembers me being just epically excited over the like 1 minute teaser that's pretty much just the logo for this game. Like, I've been very, very excited for the idea of what this game is going to be for a very long time. I love sci-fi stuff. I'm a Star Wars nerd, Mass Effect, all those different things, as well as I love playing Bethesda games like Skyrim, like Fallout. I have, for better or for worse, I have the Fallout 76 helmet over here in the corner at my home. So, like, I'm invested in Bethesda games. This, to me, was all it has to do is be a good Bethesda game, and it was going to be tons of fun. And Bethesda made a good Bethesda game. It's one of those things where you can only accomplish this one planet at a time because it's just that large. The story kind of begins. You're this nobody miner that's doing some stuff. You touch a piece of metal debris and suddenly like get knocked unconscious, and boom, all kinds of stuff starts occurring in the sense of like the people who've hired you for this whole mining operation are curious as to what you experienced and all these things. So you got to go talk to them and do all these other different things. And it doesn't necessarily have that big wow moment that I've had in past Bethesda games. Like, you know, Fallout, the big thing was that you opened the vault and you left. And you left into this humongous open world. And that just doesn't happen Like there's just a way that they introduce you to the world that is just missing in this one. But the world is so cool that it's just amazing to play around in. You're going to be playing around in it for a while as well because it's a bit slow to start. Some of it is you're figuring things out because there's not a lot of tutorials, and I know everybody goes on the whole, oh, I don't want the game to handhold and all this different stuff and whatnot. I'm not talking about handholding, but there are some things I straight up did not know how to do in the game that should be pretty basic knowledge. Like I don't need you to run me through how to build a settlement when I'm doing my first story mission, but there are certain things that I should be taught.
I mean, are we talking about how to hold a weapon? Are we talking about how to work your inventory? What kind of thing are we talking about?
So this is
we're just talking mechanically. Obviously, we're not going to do spoilers.
I I did not know that, and this is kind of going to come up when I talk about the perks. I had no idea that I could not pickpocket someone without a perk until I was 12 hours in the game and tried to go pickpocket somebody.
Huh.
Which is, for reference, since you haven't played these games, that is a pretty standard operation in previous Bethesda games.
Okay,
so it's
yeah.
not
so
something it's not something I should be thinking about having to get a perk for. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay, but does it tell you how the perk system works in general?
You get some, but it's just they're very. There's some menus in there that don't feel like you get a lot. Like it's almost like they expect you to go into a tutorial screen to get more information instead of leading you to that information. And I don't mind I don't mind the lack of hand holding as much as there are some things that I just feel like I should be introduced to a little bit more, if that makes sense.
So because, and I'm just trying to clarify what you're saying, because you've played previous Bethesda games, there are some expectations that you have in terms of how things would naturally function as a Bethesda game. And so since they are not functioning that way, it's throwing you off. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a okay. Good way to put it. Yeah. Because there are certain, like I said, when it's things that are very ingrained in the series, it does make it feel weird.
Okay, so yeah, with that said, I'm curious to know how somebody who hasn't played, how I would respond to the lack of tutorials in it.
Well, and what's kind of funny is, and this is just thinking of it in a casual manner. Let's just say, because once again, the idea of Game Pass is you get lots of people in playing this game, especially ones who don't play a lot of these games. This is your big thing that you're selling. There is an incredible depth to the systems that are in play. So there's just so many systems. There are things that are just going to be missed. Sure. Like I started talking to other reviewers. I'm like, hey, is there really no map when I'm on the planets? Like there's no actual map. Like you are following signs in areas and learning what stores are what kind of stores, and then looking for that store in the main city that you are in order to know where you can go buy certain things.
Wait, so, okay, we know that there are procedurally generated worlds, and then we know there are pre-built worlds.
This is pre-built. This is fully pre-built.
There's no maps?
No. When you go into a city, there is no map at all for you to see what is where.
So you can't even see like I am here on a that's.
Oh no, not at all.
I would get lost.
It's not even like a what?
There's there's none of it like that. You've got a little bit of a. This is the direction the enemies are on your chronomark watch down at the bottom left, but it's not a mini map. It's just straight up just a watch that's giving you status effects and your stamina and stuff.
That is a really intense way to say, hey, we really want you to explore.
Figure this out. And again, I don't mind the discovery aspect. It's just some things when it comes into I'd like a tutorial on how things work, I had to figure that out. And again, ask other reviewers, am I missing something with pressing a button? Like, is there some secret area
But
that I
that's
need to
scary
go
for
to?
somebody like me, who
Yeah.
you guys have heard how I am a fan of waypoints, not because, I'm just lazy and
Yeah.
stupid. I just, if I want to go do something, that is what. So now there's just
Now
no
the
map.
missions do have like, I'm sure you see the blue thing that's on the little mini map-ish kind of thing. Like that does exist. So
Okay.
so you'll know where you're going in that sense, like the direction you should be going. But like in a city where it's like, okay, I just came to this new place and I need ammo. If
Where's the
you're
ammo shop?
yeah, you're walking through the entire place, which it's big enough. It's not humongous, but you're like, okay, I need to look for a general store, or I need to look for a specifically, I forget the name of, there's an actual arms dealer like chain. So it's like it's
Tell
like
me where
you're
the 7-Eleven is.
yeah, exactly. So you're just having to find that place. So like I said,
Wow, that doesn't sound good. Okay.
yeah. Again, things that not everybody can like. It didn't kill the game for me. It was just something that it was okay. I guess I'm just gonna have to deal with this.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, how I would respond to that. 'Cause if
Yeah.
I want to go do something very specifically, I just want to go their direction. I'm a Google Maps person. I will use Google Maps to get where I want to go. I don't want to be
Yep.
lost. Just want to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, easy when you're doing missions, but not so
Yeah.
easy when it's just going around trying to find specific things.
Yeah, no, I hear that. That is a fascinating thing.
Yep.
But here's a question. Does it promote the discovery that Bethesda is going for? Because I understand if you're on a planet, whether you're in a city or not, there's no map, so you're figuring out where to go. But I imagine as you're figuring things out, you discover other things that might distract you, and maybe that could be enjoyable. I don't know. Is that sense there?
I get what you're saying. Like, for instance, like I was walking to go do a specific mission and I would hear people talking and the quest would pop up. Like, it is one of those games where, just like the old in Skyrim and things, when you go to do a main mission, you generally pick up like 5 missions as you were going to complete that mission. That is how Starfield continues the Bethesda tradition of, crap, I just heard a conversation. Like, I was straight up running for my life in a specific story mission. Like that was part of the story, was pretty much what was going on. And I picked up a mission of go visit this representative, as I'm assuming because I ran past that person on the spaceport. Like, it was just kind of funny of this kind of ruins the immersion.
Yeah.
Because I'm running it up in the corner. You should go talk to this representative. It's like, it wasn't a bad thing. It's just Bethesda-y, so to speak. But I guess, like, I like the theme of discovery until I'm having to discover where the heck I can buy something that's important. Like, because the fun thing with it is not every place is going to have the specific things you need. Like, there's specific ammo types for different weapons, and not every general store is going to have that specific ammo type. Like, I think I'm still looking for a specific ammo type for a sniper, and I'm assuming it's just more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think exclusive works, but it kind of does, if that makes sense. So I'm having to search.
That way.
I'm probably going to have to go to an actual, like, arms dealer to get that ammo, because it doesn't fall when I kill the bad guys, and it doesn't just show up at a general store. Even one of the weapons I use the most, I usually have to go to a much more heavy duty store. Something else, for instance, I'm sure you see on the screen right now, if you're watching, it's got the hidden detected bar for the stealth. You need a perk for that.
Well,
You can still sneak just to get that specific meter. You can still sneak around. You just don't have that notation that you're sneaking, that you know you're in the clear.
Oh, okay. That doesn't
I
bother
understand
me.
that. Yeah, I understand.
I get it, but again, as a Bethesda player,
Okay.
it does, that meter has always been there. Always been there.
So it sounds like for fans of Bethesda games, or at least frequent player, a lot of the common things have been turned into stuff you have to earn in Starfield.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not necessarily the biggest deal. It's just the fact that it is a recognizable annoyance. Like it is something that people will look at and be like, okay, I'm not fond of this.
But does it work for Starfield? Like, can you, as you play it, do you understand why they went in that direction? Like, is there something specific to Starfield that makes you go,
No,
yeah, we need it? It would be better for players to unlock these things instead of we just give it to everybody.
here's probably the best example of this, and I hate it because I feel like I'm getting into the perk talk right away with this, so to speak, without getting into some other things. I can literally be given or purchase a boost pack, which is the jetpack that you get in the game, and it's for jumping. Essentially, you get that extra boost. I can legitimately be earn it through a mission or purchase it and still not be able to use it because I don't have the perk.
That's fascinating.
Like that's and the other example that I had with it is I cannot pickpocket, but I can unlock a novice lock.
Like from the beginning.
Without a perk, yeah, from the beginning. So it's just it's weird, the weird choices. That's where like you get what I mean. You get. I hope this is helping you understand why I'm frustrated with the perk system, because it doesn't feel like it has, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no consistency. It feels like to what you're locking.
With regards to like the booster, like, is there a big, I guess, variance in time between you like earning it in the mission before you can, or after you can pick it up? Like, if it's like 1 or 2 missions, I could see that being like, oh hey, now I can use that.
I'm pretty sure you can go buy one just about right out of the gate, and I felt like I got it pretty early on in because it's one of the first perks you can unlock too. But it was one of the things of I felt like you could actually get it pretty quickly in the game, if I'm remembering right, at the quest that I earned one.
So
okay. I think it's one of the first story quests you earned one, but I'm pretty sure I could go buy one if I wanted one.
Do you think maybe they're, thought process?
Actually, I take it back. I actually found them on enemies very early on. So that actually throws that completely out.
Well, do you think their whole, I guess, philosophy was, hey, we're going to give this cool thing to a player. We want them to figure out how to use it?
No, because it's literally just a boosted jump. Like, that's all it really is. And I don't understand why something like lockpicks I can still do a novice thing of. Like, I could understand that the boost pack that you could increase, just like the lockpick, you go to where you can pick advanced locks, and then you could is the next perk, because it is still, lockpicking is still a perk. It's just that the base version of it's unlocked in the game, and then I could go to advanced if I upgrade that skill, and then move to master. I think there's one more that's in there somewhere. I don't understand why, for instance, the boost pack, I couldn't have a basic version, and then maybe the first perk point I put into it maybe gives me a 10% boost on the meter that the boost pack is on, or something. That's more, it's a similar way that you could put those two next to each other. Like as opposed to I just full on removed your ability to even be able to use it from the game. Like that's more where it's at.
So how do you unlock perks? That's where on perks. How do you unlock them?
So the nice thing is it is decently easy in the sense of the game. You just play the game and earn XP, and every level you get to, you earn 1 perk point to be able to put in the vending machine. So
and generally, how long does it take? Does it feel like it takes too long, too short?
I put in 24 hours into the game to the point that I remember, and I was level 27, if I'm remembering right.
Almost an hour a level, dear Lord.
The fun that you run into is, for instance, the like settlement, building, mining stuff, not a lot of XP in that. Because remember, I was focused on story missions on a lot of what my gameplay was. So I was actively being involved in doing things that gave me XP. So like it takes a second. And there's some reasoning that I can bring up at another point in time when it's not as easy to spoil, but like there's a reason that your progression is probably not so instantaneous.
Oh yeah, I'm not looking for instantaneous, but almost an hour per level when doing main missions. That sounds like a long time.
Yeah. So it's that whole thing of I have to sit there and think, okay, am I going to run into a spot? Like, for instance, there was some planets that I wanted to travel to continue the story missions, but I did get into some locks of you can either buy a better grav drive or use a perk point to make to jump the percentage of your grav drive. And so it became the thing of, well, what happens if I don't have enough money and don't have enough perk points? Thankfully, I had some perk points to spend because I forget I have them, and was able to immediately jump right into it. But it's like, okay, well, this is kind of that soft lock grind that I'm suddenly going to be in, just to do specific things. I had a ship I earned in a mission, and I completely understand why, but I haven't been able to earn the right to use that class of ship, because I don't have enough perks in piloting. That makes sense. It is a higher class ship. It would be like applying for a license, so to speak, to be able to get it. But when you're at the very basic version of perks, when I literally have an item that is just a boost jump, and I have to use it. Like I've already have the item necessary for it, but I have to pay for the ability to turn it on, so to speak. It just kind of is one of those things of, it's a little frustrating. And because it's so early out of the gate, it becomes more frustrating. That's more what it is, especially in comparison to there are other skills that I can already still use in the midst of all of this.
All right. Well, I didn't expect to, start it with the perks, but you got it off your chest.
It's a very specific issue that I did have with it.
No, I mean, it sounds like a reasonable issue to have with it. It does not sound like it is a intuitive thing. It does not sound like in every instance it is something that makes sense, especially, I guess, if you are someone who has played nearly all the Bethesda games, or at least some of the more recent ones. So I think it's understandable. I'm curious to know how I would react to it, and at some point I will let you all know. But I do find it fascinating. So I think that's something useful people should know. But go ahead, talk about the next thing you want to talk about.
So one of the coolest parts about Bethesda games, of course, is the characters. You can't have a Bethesda game without good characters, and they've done a really good job with updating their characters. It's always been one of those things of Bethesda NPCs are the NPCist NPCs of video games, because they blank stare at you.
Characters.
Oh yes, they have blank stares. The problem was that even your like companion main NPCs a lot of the time would be as boring as the NPCs around you. So that was always a fun thing that would go on in Bethesda games, but they have very much leveled up what you can do when it comes to NPCs. Like there are still the very I'm trying to think of the best word for it. They're the gnarly looking NPCs that just you walk up to them and it just says citizen on them. It's like, yeah, fam, you are very much a red shirt on the Enterprise. But they have made sure that there are a lot of blue shirts. If everyone that you can talk to in the game is generally very detailed, especially compared to the other level, the lower level of NPCs. And the best part, of course, about that is you can talk to them and they are all fully voiced. Like you don't have all the and it isn't this thing of a lot of people have played the Batman Arkham games and almost every thug ends up they voice like 10 thugs and that's all you're like, I've heard this exact voice line before.
Yep.
I'm gonna get you, bats.
Yeah.
Something like that, and it's like, that's
a cult of the saying the same thing.
And you'll see the other guy that you're in the other side of the city, and he sounds exactly the same. You're not even hiding your voice, buddy. You got pulled into paid for some voice lines, and that was about it. This feels like they put a lot more care into these characters, which is part of why it's so much fun to interact with. Like I was doing a very low level side mission where there was a shopkeeper. He had some stuff that got busted up in his shop. He wanted me to go and take the guy out. So he knew where the guy hung out. I went to that area, and the cool thing was you got just this bartender that's standing there. Went up and chatted with her, and she was a very detailed, very uniquely voiced character. And whether or not I would go through the game and find somebody else that had the same voice or whatnot, that's irrelevant. The game's so big, the fact that I did not find somebody just proves it. But it was she had her own personality in the conversation, the way she talked to me, the way she was going about everything in this mission. And again, this is not a main, or you could almost not even call it a side mission. It was more of just an activity in the game to do. And it felt like I had as much care there as in some of the other big missions. And it's nice to see that when you're playing a game, and that helps you be more invested, especially when you get to points where I've done all the big name stuff in this. I've completed all the big story missions. I've completed the faction missions. Now I'm into the side quests and the smaller activities, and you start enjoying yourself. Like we had one of the people working with us on the review landed on some random planet and had a nice conversation with a grandma that was living on the planet. And
sitting on her porch, watching the planetary tumbleweed roll by.
So it's just cool that a company would care to put that kind of effort, especially when not everybody is going to encounter these things because it's such a big game. It's very easy in this day and age to throw a quest in for the sake of throwing a quest in. And I get it, not every quest is going to involve some ridiculous narrative or some crazy thing in it. But just those little things are just like, okay, this was fun. I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I got to meet these characters in this galaxy. The other cool thing, the companions that you end up meeting, they are all like obviously there's the level of the low level NPCs, then there's the regular NPCs, which are fun to interact with, and then the companions, they're just even further of a level of interaction because you really feel like you get to talk to them about their backstory, find out about what makes them tick. Like that's where that level up comes, is I find a lot of cool stories behind the basic NPCs, but I get to find out more about the person when it comes to the companions, and they have their own quests that you get to do for them. And of course, Bethesda games, you get to romance them if you'd like and whatnot. So it adds that in there, but it's just great getting to see all of these different narratives, all of these stories that are behind these different characters as you do your main quest, because there's some great main quests. There's some that unfortunately aren't great. Like there was a couple of main missions where I literally landed on a planet, walked to a cave, grabbed the thing from the cave that I was supposed to be grabbing, and walked back to my ship, and that was it. That was literally the whole, and it was a story, like part of the story. Like it was how I was getting to the next thing. And I get it, not every single one can be incredible, but at the same point, it's like, okay, this was just these were necessary items to get me to the final mission. So it's like I do wish that some of them were a little bit more, there was a little bit more behind them. But the fact that there is a lot of good done on the lower level stuff makes up a whole lot for that. I can forgive a MacGuffin main story mission fetch quest when I get the go chat with grandma on a random deserted planet quest.
Yeah.
We had the fun thing is it does extend to your ships as well. There was a specific ship that I got in a mission it was named the Mantis. That's the only thing I'm going to say because I don't want to spoil anything. And I flew out into this one planet, and there was these couple of ships attacking a merchant vessel. And they started yelling about how they were going to destroy it. They were on the comms and stuff on the ships, and I flew in and started shooting at them, and they started talking back at me. And then all of a sudden the comms turned into, oh crap, it's the Mantis, get out of here. So they actually tied in the fact of the ship that I had to some of the lore behind the mission that I did, getting this ship, this specific ship. And I ended up saving the merchant vessel without as much as truly firing a shot, just because they were so scared. And even the ship was like, "Oh, thank you for saving us." And then the co-pilot's like, "That's the Mantis." And so it's like when you get those little details and stuff, it just makes you appreciate the game more, because you're like, this is. There's not a lot of games where that feels organic, and it feels organic in Starfield. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to know about combat, since that's been a big thing with this game. And I can't say that it is a first-person shooter like smorgasbord, like, yeah, I'm going in here, can't wait to hit everything and shoot everything. It is better than Fallout 4, but that's not saying a lot, because Fallout 4 was not great. There's some floatiness that you have in the aiming. What's funny is I was playing this game on vacation, because that's when I got my code.
Because it's Starfield. That's what you do on vacation.
Because it's Starfield. Yeah, this is what my vacations are, people, is playing video games for review. But I don't know what it was, if it was the TV. The people there had Amazon Fire TVs, and I don't know if they just the TVs just suck or what the deal was, but I felt like I was missing. Like, there was actually a point when I was playing Starfield that I swapped over to one of the rescue axes, like one of the little handheld axes, and I just started running at enemies and just swinging. Like, it was full on like Skyrim level melee combat of just flailing. And it worked for a little bit, but you run out of med packs kind of quickly, because at the beginning of Starfield, you don't want to expose yourself to fire that often, because you get melted pretty fast. You really got to figure out the whole how to upgrade your gear. Another thing that isn't explained, you've got to just figure it out on your own, on researching mods and then being able to do mods from there, and then finding the crafting pieces for mods. But getting all the stuff you need so that you're not immediately dying, it does take time. But when I got home, when I hooked everything up to my main TV here at home, and I don't have some crazy, like, I've just got some Spectre 40-inch in my room. It's not a heavy duty brand, but it's a 4K 60 TV. And everything felt way better when I was playing it on that TV. Like I felt like I could actually aim right, get shots right. I could not tell you what the problem was. At this point, I'm thinking the TV was just very super low level or something. Because the 30 frames per second is not an issue. If you're on PC, it's not an issue at all because you can achieve higher than 30 frames on PC. It's not hard capped, but I found it a lot easier to use once I got home to my TV. So just kind of a call out of, if you were playing this on just some random TV, do know that that could affect how your gunplay experience is. Like it very much could be a hardware thing. Couldn't tell you why. I just know that there's at least a possibility. So the better equipment you have, probably the better off you'll be. But
is there a lot of like variants in the guns that you can use?
Yeah,
there like weapons and stuff.
I can't say that I've used necessarily everything, but you've got ammo-based weapons and you've got laser-based weapons. And I kind of flipped around what I was using. Sometimes I'd pull out, like, they've got like a P90 and somewhat of a, trying to think of the best. It's not necessarily an MP5, but it's that kind of a machine gun that I picked up from some of the enemies very early on. There are several shotguns. I love the shotguns in this game. They don't necessarily have the greatest, like, when you hit somebody, like, you know, you get that shot off with the Doom shotgun. It's like, oh yeah, that I hit that guy. You don't necessarily get that feeling, but it was still a nice feeling when I hit my shotgun shots, and there was some good audio that they had behind it. There's a lot of different pistols that you can pick up in the game, which are pretty viable. Hitting some of your shots were a little bit odd. There were some times where some of the different reticles for my guns, I felt like I had the gun aimed on the head and I wasn't hitting the shot. So I don't know if there's a lot of weapon bloom in the game, and maybe that has some things to do with it. But there are some really cool ones, and they definitely have some things that resemble, like, that. One of the things that Starfield has gone for with this is the NASA punk idea of they're going, everything has that kind of NASA, almost retro NASA feel to it. And then when you get out into some of these different areas, like one of the cities is Aquila City, and that's where the Freestar Rangers are based out of. And you'll pick up some guns and it's like, oh, okay, this is very Western feeling. Like the Lawgiver rifle, it straight up feels like a Western but sci-fi rifle when you're using it, and it's super cool. Really like using it. It's the one that really felt floaty when I was aiming at people. I felt like I was missing a lot of shots, a lot of bloom or something. One of the things that people are going to have to realize is, especially early on, and the fun is, because it's kind of slow going and you're figuring out you're building the character. Everybody watched the Starfield Direct and kept watching the dude who was using his boost pack to jump over to a guy and then sliding into the guy and stuff like that and whatnot. Like, you figure out somewhat early on that, okay, I can't do these things, so and I get melted when I go out in the open. So you develop that very methodical, okay, I'm gonna go to this area and sit here and wait for these. The AI is not bad, but I'm gonna wait for them to try and attack me so that I can get the best out of this and shoot at them and try to have the best advantage I can when I'm attacking people.
I was gonna say, when I was looking at the footage y'all uploaded and footage from other people, the cuts that the trailers have done, usually for Starfield by Bethesda and Xbox, they make it, I wouldn't say everything is an exciting moment, because sometimes they just have the sweep over the planet, or somebody just walking across the land, slower moments, but they feel more grandiose.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, sometimes you're just walking around.
Most people are going to do
Your
a lot of
shooting is
this.
just kind of like you just sit there behind something and pop up.
Most people are going to do this slowly. The cool thing is, though, is they do have beyond just the ammos, is they do have some different ways that you can upgrade your weapons. Like there are some, like I picked up an incendiary version of one of the P90s, so I could catch somebody on fire, and then they've got like acid rounds that'll help you with armor and different things like that. So there's ways you can modify your weapon to be better. And I need to put a lot more time into that, because that's not some I more just tried to buy weapons that were already set up for that, which that is a bit of a disappointment. Like, for instance, if I found a gun out in the wild and it had a silencer on it, I can't pull that modification off. It's built into the gun. So I can't go just swapping mods. That's just not the way they built the game. It's whatever you do is permanent.
Okay. Yeah, the point I was getting at is they demonstrate where it looks like combat could be fast paced. It doesn't sound like that's truly the case. Like maybe like split seconds of fast pace, but that's it. That's what it sounds like.
I think by the time you get to the point where it could be fast paced, you have been so trained into the habit of taking on your fights methodically that you just don't. That's kind of the easiest way to put it. Like, you can get there. Can you build yourself to that point? Yes. But because you start out with nothing, you are going to be a little more drawn back, most likely. Because, again, like me, I got to that one point, got frustrated, and ran around with the rescue axe, and that sapped my med packs ridiculously, because I had a ton of them at the start, and then when I switched, it was like, oh crap, this style is getting me killed.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of ways that you can build yourself, I think, to get to that style, but not everybody is going to understand that playing this game. That's the fun you run into with these is builds. Like, yes, there's a lot that you can do and you can choose to do, but you're going to get the most out of what you're trying to do, you're going to want to build your character that way.
I just saw on the screen dialogue choices with points next to them. So I don't know what you were going to talk about next, but I want to ask, the choices in this game, how impactful are they? How much do you have to decide, like, ooh, I don't know if I want to choose this? Or is it simply a means? And again, I'm not as familiar with Bethesda games, so I apologize if this question is easy for a lot of people.
You're fine.
But is this one of those things where it's more about digging more into just story and lore and the person, or are there choice driven stuff where it can impact the game?
So, and I want to be careful with this, because you had some things you asked me, and it's going to end up being part of it. But dialogue is so good in this game. Like, it is just one of my favorite parts, because Fallout 4, they went with, you had your face buttons, and you would make your choice, and it would be based off of 3 vague words. And it would not always come out the way that you hoped it would when you chose those words either. So it's like, you would choose something. That was not what I was trying to say. Like, that's how it happened a lot in Fallout 4. They threw that completely out and decided to go back to the old, like, Skyrim is more the system that this resembles. A lot of things do end up being lore, but you do have a lot of moments where you will talk with someone and you will have dialogue options. The other thing is, it is based on your perks that you choose. So there are different things that you can choose, like, and it's stuff that is like out there in terms of it. Like, there was a guy I was able to help because there was a dialogue. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to crack up at the fact that Barrett, your companion character, if you look to the left, he is hiding behind that. That it keeps going back to him, and he was just hiding behind the locker. I had like medicine, and I was able to help a guy because one of my dialogue choices involved medicine, like my actual perk. So they'll actually have in like a parentheses kind of block what your perk is, which is enabling that choice of dialogue. And there will be different things that you can say that will give you different ways of approaching a situation. For instance, one of them is just straight up attack. You can end dialogue and just go straight to the fighting with some of them. My favorite, one of my favorite things about this game is the fact that I can persuade people. That is something that has been a part of Bethesda games for a long time, is leveling up your persuasion, being able to use your way talking to get out of situations. And one of the things you saw right there is when you hit persuade, you get the option of there are different ways to talk to them. If you succeed in the line of dialogue you choose, which it's pretty much a thing of you're having to pay attention to that person and what they're saying in order to choose that dialogue, because you're like, okay, how are they talking to me? How are they going to respond to what I am saying here? And depending on what you choose and how large of a meter is down below, the points fill up that persuasion meter. And if you get it by the end of the couple of turns you get, then you have persuaded them and you can move forward with that option. Whatever the persuade option was, that's your option. Like, I was able to persuade somebody to go ahead and give me information at one point when I could have used dialogue and just given them 1,000 credits, and I did not want to spend that money. So instead, I just used my persuasion to get them to give it to me, or getting a better deal, using my persuasion to get a better deal on some specific gear that somebody had asked me to go get. Like, there's just so much fun that you can have with dialogue, and when a game does it right, to me, dialogue is one of those things. If a game does it perfectly right, then I love the game forever. Greedfall is a big example of that. It's a game that not a lot of people like, probably even know of, but the dialogue is so good in that game that it makes up for all of the janky, I mean absolutely janky combat and reused worlds and reused areas and such. Like, literally, there are 3 throne rooms in this game, and each one of them is exactly the same. And yet, in Greedfall, I'm having a blast because I love the dialogue choices. And the dialogue choices are just amazing in Starfield.
Because it was just on the screen, I am not a big fan of flying in games, personally. Just not my thing. How, I guess, necessary is it like a pretty frequent thing that you do? How's the ship building? How does all that feel? Especially to someone who's not like a big aerial guy.
Well, Noah, don't worry your sweet little head about it, because you're going to be doing about as much flying as nothing. Because flying is in the game, but it is very contained. You will board your ship. You will fly to other planets, but it will be all fast travel. Going to other planets is all fast travel. When you get to the, I want to say atmosphere, but it's not really atmosphere, the surrounding of the planet that you're trying to go to, if you haven't been there before, you're hit with a couple of different things. One of them might be that you're being scanned for contraband. So if you're a thief in these games, they will scan you to see if you have a bunch of stolen merchandise on board that you're trying to smuggle, which can lead to a fight, which is one of the other things that can happen depending on if you're fighting with the good guys or if you're fighting with the pirates or whatnot. That is honestly, that's the most flying you do, is if you were in combat. But as far as actually flying, you do not fly directly to planets. Like, the planet will always, when you come out of hyperspace to said planet, if you look directly at the planet and you hit boost, you will never get any closer to that planet.
So you cannot directly fly to planets like if you wanted to. Like you can't really just explore space and just
Nope,
fly
it
around.
asks you to open the star map.
Huh.
You can even be in the like, and it's further than just jumping to a system. Like, let's say I'm in the in our solar system. Let's say that I've landed on Jupiter. I've landed on one of the moons
Landed
of
on Jupiter.
Jupiter. Yeah, I
Yep.
can't land on Jupiter. I've landed on one of the moons of Jupiter. I cannot decide. Okay, I'm going to get in my ship, which and jump into space. I cannot decide. Okay, I'm going to fly over to Mars. Like it, I have to fast travel to Mars. You are constantly fast traveling. That is a big disappointment when it comes to like this was sold as a like the you have your own ship was really sold and you can use your ship for some really cool stuff. Like your ship is very much, as we said in the review, your lifeblood because obviously it's the only way you're going to get around the solar system. It's the only way you're going to be able to do certain things in this game, but you're just going to be doing a lot of fast traveling with it. That's the biggest thing. Like it's I don't want to call it unnecessary because it's not unnecessary. You have to have it, but it's also that thing of man, I just wish there was a little bit more to it.
Yeah, I feel like I would want like there's fast travel to any planets, 1,000 planets, whatever. I feel like it would be cool if there were different sectors that, you know, a small conglomeration of planets you could just fly to that are close by. And then if you fast travel to another, whatever galaxy, let's just say, then there's another small
Yeah.
section of planets
When
you
the
can
in
only
your
fly
solar
to.
system, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and well, not even like, yeah, I get that, but even still, like flying from Jupiter to Mercury, like that would be long, but flying from Jupiter to Mars or Jupiter to Saturn,
yeah,
that makes sense. But
yeah.
yeah, that's not the way it's designed.
So
I understand that.
I
That would
look
be
at it. It's
huge.
to me, it's probably more technical limitation than anything, which it does extend to the planets. You can only create so many landings at like you can land anywhere on a planet more or less, but it creates a landing zone procedurally. So when
Okay.
if you are not dropping onto a pre-built area like a city, for instance, you drop into that area. You can run around it. There's obviously generated things that you can go check out, like radar posts or stuff like that. Whatnot. If I believe there are 5 that you can create before it will start getting rid of previous ones that you have on that planet.
Oh.
Like I believe the only way I think you could probably save it, and this is I have not actually tested this, so do not take this as gospel, is if you dropped an outpost there. I'm assuming that probably saves that procedurally generated, for lack of a better term, a tile of it. So
Yeah.
the it is planets are not truly fully explorable, but it is one of those things of who wants to spend 2 hours walking completely around a planet that's may not have a lot on it.
Probably longer than that, but yeah.
Like if you want to do
Yeah.
that, go play No Man's Sky because that's exactly what you want. That's not what this game is trying to do, and that's fine. The only thing that is
But does it work? Like, is it?
it's fine in
Well,
my opinion.
I'm
It's
sure,
fine.
like mechanically, it works. You fly down, create a landing pad, but in terms of, like, yes, you can't walk around the whole planet, but can you pretty much land anywhere on the planet?
Yeah. It just
Okay.
like I said, it creates a procedurally generated zone that you will be in.
So in a sense, you kind of can explore the whole planet. You just have to kind of leave and come back
Yeah.
a bunch of times.
Yeah, although it's not really. Again, you can't walk from the North Pole to the South Pole. That's just not the way it's
Sure, yeah.
essentially
No, I
working.
get that. But
Because
you could land on the North Pole and explore some of that area and then land in the
yeah,
South Pole and explore some of
well,
that area and then
s
land somewhere in the middle and
yeah. Well,
maybe
and
there's a
depending on if
connection.
I guess the fun is if you let's say you landed in the North Pole first, you landed in 5 other spots after it, it would delete the North Pole. So when you went back to the North Pole, it would be a different North Pole, so to speak,
Oh, it
because it's
just looks
procedurally
different.
because it'll erase
Oh,
after you create so many landing spots on a planet, it erases
so literally the
one.
land also is procedurally
Yeah, I
generated
mean
each
we're
time
talking
you
like
land.
it's procedurally generating like everything.
Okay,
The
that's not
reason
what I
I'm saying
expected.
that is so.
Yeah.
For instance, I went and I made a landing marker right next to one of the cities in the game. Like I'm talking like as close as I could possibly get without selecting the city. I
Okay.
created a landing zone. I landed. I ran around my space. You cannot find the city anywhere. Like you can't see it in the distance or anything. Like that's that again proof that it
Interesting.
is procedurally generating this
Yeah.
area like that you are landing in. You cannot see I cannot walk to the edge of this area and it be like, "Okay, do you want to walk to the city?" Like there's none of that. Like this is generating a planet essentially for you to explore.
But if you left that spot and then went right back to that spot, the land would still be completely different from the first time you went, even though
It
you already
well,
landed there.
it would still be the same as long as I had
Okay.
not created too many landing areas to where the
Okay.
game had to start erasing landing
Gotcha.
areas.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
it's just it's a different way they've made it. A lot of people have a huge problem with it. I'm like, look, I did not buy this game because I wanted to play a sim. That is not what a Bethesda game is. I don't care. Half the time, I'm not probably going to just land on a planet just to do random things. Like I go to I go to the actual points of interest when I get to a planet myself. So
Yeah, I can see. I mean, I can see why some people would be disappointed. Again, I was kind of expecting. I understood the planets were procedurally generated. What I didn't know was that they were continually procedurally generated as you visit it too many times. Which
yeah,
I am not entirely sure Bethesda. I wouldn't say expected. I'm not sure they anticipate people revisiting a planet so many times that it's just they're just going to keep looping all these
yeah.
procedural generations. So,
When it's to
because
give you new stuff to do, obviously.
sure, but even still, finding one planet and then you find some stuff. Maybe you make as many landing pads as you can across the planet, and there's nothing there. I mean, the most you can do is just keep on landing there just to see if something pops up. But if nothing's there, then you move on to the next planet. I would imagine
Yep.
that's how Bethesda thinks most people would
Oh
treat
yeah.
that. And so it's
Exactly.
really not in some ways, design wise, it's not really a big deal that it continually procedurally generates after you've made too many landing spots. I don't know. That's the way it comes off to me.
I wish I understood more of the like settlement stuff to talk about. I know that Ron and David Flynn had fun with it because essentially, like, one of the easiest ways at the beginning of the game to go ahead and get going is to make yourself a little doing some strip mining because you can go down to planets, and that's part of the whole generating your landing areas. You create an outpost, you can go ahead and put down some mining apparatuses and stuff and start harvesting materials so that you can sell them or build more stuff or whatnot. And that's a real easy way to go ahead and get that kind of stuff going. And of course, the fun thing is you can hire people from different areas of the game and you can stick them in that outpost and have them run it for you. So it's the nice thing of, oh, okay, cool. I don't even have to really do that much. Same thing with actually collecting the stuff. You can set up it's kind of like Fallout 4's settlement builder stuff, where it's real easy to loop everything into everything. And then when you can loop it into storage, which you can have it transferred directly to your ship when you're in the vicinity and all that kind of stuff. So just they know what they're doing from the Fallout 4 settlement stuff. So it feels like they were able to take that and really easily move it into here. It's not going to be a for everyone thing. Again, I'm more story based with that kind of stuff, but it's nice to see that there are there are ways to do things without, okay, I just need to earn the credits to buy materials, or hey, I can use these materials to actually get a bunch of money out of the game.
I want to ask about the ships and how flying feels.
Flying, it feels pretty good. I am not necessarily much for the first person view myself, but that's just like when I played like the Batman games and stuff like that, I've always kind of, any racing game, I prefer to have the car out in front of me. So I play in the third person when I'm flying around the ship, and it actually feels really good. The shooting with the system actually works really well. Pretty much they've got this big kind of circle in front of you. It probably come up a couple times during this video, and it pretty much your systems start locking onto the ship. So it makes your laser fire really easy to hit the ships. And then of course, when you're fully locked on, you can, cause just starting to lock on, you can hit with lasers, but then you can use like missiles and have those hit. Those do require lock on, or you're going to miss every time. But the biggest thing with the ships is when you build your ship, you have to keep in mind kind of the rules of just building anything when it comes to a vehicle. If you build it too big, it's going to be tough to turn it. If you build it real small, you may not be able to take necessarily as many hits, and obviously you won't be able to carry as much. You got to make sure you put some good weapons on there. One of the things that I think is really cool is the way that they have designed the power systems with the ships, because, and I wish it would show it. I guess we can back it up a little bit to show the, I want to see the ship right here. Well, I paused it and then it went away because I want to have a little easier time to bring it up once it gets here. But essentially, you have like 5 or 6. It depends on what you've equipped your ship with, but you have different power meters on your ship on this bottom left-hand corner that you'll see. And you've got like lasers there. You've got 3 things of power. You've got missiles, got 3 things of power. You got, I forget what BAL stands for. It wasn't extremely important when I was playing the game, so I don't remember. You've got, of course, your engines, which you've got like 6 things of power to that. You've got shields, which have 5 things of power. And then you've got your grav drive, which that's what's necessary for fast travel. And the cool thing about it is you can actually go and change these things. So let's say that I am in a dogfight and I have my lasers. I've got like 5 lasers, 5 spots for my lasers, and I have my grav drive. I've still got 2 points to it. Well, I can decide, you know what, I want to actually fight this out. I can drop my 2 out of the grav drive or something. I can boost my lasers so I can get a little more power. Exactly, rerouting power, which I think is a really cool. It's part of the reason why I wish there was it was a little more heavy duty with some of what you do in space. Because to me, that is a really cool system that you don't find in most space. I wouldn't say space games, but just in most vehicle-based games, you don't see a lot of power rerouting. And I think that's a really, really neat idea is, okay, I'm going to sacrifice my shields just for the sake that maybe I can get in that extra killing blow, or
get away faster.
Crap, I need to get away, so I need to really throw a bunch into the grav drive so I can get out of here fast. So that's just, to me, it's just a neat thing with the ships. Building them, David Flynn did a lot more of the building side, and he said that a controller, it is a little bit finicky with the builder, which makes sense with a controller. It's not going to be fine precision when it comes to certain things is not what you're getting out of a controller a lot, but it works. But really the coolest thing is just the fact that, you can buy new ship parts and improve your ship if you wish. You can build some just ugly monstrosity if you want that just works.
Yeah.
You can take it and you can, decide, oh, I want to do more when it comes to cargo because I'm doing a lot of the ship mining, so I want to be able to transfer things back and forth. Or, hey, I want a war vessel that I can go and fight these different space pirates and stuff with. It really just, the cool thing is the ship is it's as flexible as you are in how you can build it and in how you can decide you want it to be done. It's going to take a lot of money if you want it to be like a does all things well, because stuff is expensive, but you can do some really cool things. And the one thing that's really nice is that while the Frontier is not necessarily the best ship in the game that you start out with, you can do some quests and get some really cool ships pretty early on just some of the side quests. And it's generally pretty easy to do too. Like there's some quests in the game that are pretty simple to complete, and you're like, oh, cool, I got a ship out of this. And you can actually have up to, I believe it's 8 ships, and just switch them out when you're in the spaceport, depending on which one you have. So
This might be a silly question.
It's cool. Go ahead.
Are there transmog kind of things for the ship? Because you mentioned, you can build an ugly ship, but it just works. So, but it's like, what if you want a pretty ship, but it just works?
I mean, you can find pieces to make things look good. And from what I understand, like there are different pieces that it's worth putting on your ship to make it look good. But I don't believe there's any sort of transmog as far as what I remember in the game.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, this one's just to put together your there's a word that I'm thinking of, your rust bucket and go.
Yeah. And nothing wrong with that. That's probably going to be me. Hey, I like these parts. These parts do what I wanted to do. It's butt ugly, but it works.
I literally used the Frontier until the very end of the game. And that was just because I got locked into I cannot get to this planet where the main mission is with the Frontier because it just does not have the ability power wise to get there.
Interesting. What happens if your ship is destroyed?
You just restart at the last save.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you lost things.
Nothing that I've come across. It's just you restart. From what I understand, the cool thing is you can steal ships. So there are some ships that if you take them out, they will essentially just stop. Like a lot of ships, you'll just blow them up and then you'll just pick up some resources from one of the pods that drops off. Some ships, if you destroy them or if you best them in battle, they'll just stay there floating and you'll have the option to go up and dock. One of the things they brought up in, I believe it was the direct, was you can go and start boarding the ship and then they just pull away and undock from your ship and you're just kind of left floating in space or something like that. Not sure exactly how all of that works since that's never happened to me, but it's kind of a funny thought. Or not that they're floating in space, it's that they may, I don't think it's that you're left floating in space, it's that they will take off with you on the ship. And so you're like, crap, I got to get back to my ship. So and it becomes a thing of, oh crap, I have to just straight up beat these guys. Like there's no other way out of this. I've got to actually kill them. And that's all I can do. So you can, if you go and just, kill all the people on the ship and go sit in the captain's chair, boom, it's your ship. It is your, and it automatically becomes your home ship. So then you can go back. It becomes part of your little fleet. And you can sell ships for money. So that's a nice thing. If you get to a point you're like, I'm just done with this ship, you can go ahead and just get rid of it from there.
If your inventory of ships is full though, and you try to steal a ship, what happens?
I'm not sure. I do not have that many ships.
Oh yeah, because you only had the Frontier until the
yeah. I ended up with 2 additional ships after that, and one of them I can't even use because I do not have my perk high enough. One of the things I did not mention with the perks that I think it's a cool idea, but I'm not sure how much I prefer it. Is, for instance, I get the boost pack and I can finally use my boost pack, but I want to make it better. Getting another skill point, I cannot invest until I complete a challenge. So there are, as far as I have been able to see, there are 4 challenges that you get, 4 ranks total. You get the first one for free just by spending the skill point. But the next one would involve, I have to use, like, say, my boost pack, I have to use it 10 times in combat. I do that, and then it's like the next one, then I have to spend a skill point to finish off the rank. So now I'm rank 2. Then for rank 3, it's like I've got to use it 25 times in combat. Easy enough. Use it, spend another skill point. I wish, at least maybe it's just a personal thing, is I wish you could just buy the perk and then just, like, maybe the challenges were a little harder instead of just spending skill points, because it does become, at least to me, it becomes an arbitrary thing of, oh, okay, now I got to do this challenge and I got to grind this to level this thing up, and then I still have to go get a skill point to invest in it, and it just, I think the previous systems, and again, you haven't played a lot of them, so it's some of it is foreign, but there was some stuff like with Skyrim, like you could literally just jump and that leveled up your jump. Like that was it. Doing the thing was how you leveled most of the things up. It wasn't all of it, but it was a lot of it. Fallout, it was still a lot of that, but there was a lot more perk basis on specific things. It feels like both systems are pretty much smashed together in Starfield. So as opposed to, I have the base things that level up as I do them and other perks on the side, it's the perks are how I level up. So just like I said, it's one of those things of, maybe it's just trying to make it so that there aren't too many systems in there, but it is something that you miss a little bit when there were some things that I could just do and I would level up. Just on the basis of I focused on doing those things. Like I snuck around, so my sneak skill got way better. Or there were some people who very much abused it. There was somebody who found a spot in a tavern that you could crouch jump up into it, and then you could rig it so that you could just keep jumping in that one spot and you wouldn't move. So they leveled it way up because they just kept jumping.
Level 100 jump.
Oh yeah, dude. So it is a little sad, because all I can think in my head is you aren't gonna get those you aren't gonna find those little things, those nuggets in this game, because you get, like, one of the things for being able to carry more things was you had to run while 75% of your weight, you were sprinting for so many meters with 75% of your weight used up in what your total carry inventory is.
Yes.
Which was very easy to do because you cannot carry necessarily a whole lot of things. I think that's part of the whole idea of the ship, is that you are trying to transfer things to your ship so that you can't carry out. I'm bad for it because I'm a guy who I love having everything in my inventory. So I have like 17, 20 weapons on my person, because I'm like, well, what if I want to shoot somebody with this gun? What if I want to shoot what if the situation is better for me to use this gun?
Yeah.
I may never use that gun. Like at the end of the game, I got one gun and I was like, I am using this. And I pretty much used that gun for the last 4 hours of the game. But I still had 16 other weapons. Because who knows if one of those weapons might be useful. But it's like, okay, well, I only have so much I can level up my weight to hold things, and it's kind of sucks that it's capped. Like there isn't a level cap in the game, but there's a level cap in terms of the abilities. And
yes, somebody has to stop you from being able to carry 40 weapons.
The entire inventory. Like,
I want to carry everything.
The armory is now useless because David is carrying the entire armory.
is.
I'm gonna
the
name.
armory.
I'm gonna name a character. I'm gonna go in and name a character Arsenal, and just literally that's the only thing I will have is weapons. I'm gonna get rid of every outfit. I'm not gonna wear a space suit. Anything. It's just weapons. That's it.
Is there anything else?
I don't need med packs. If everything's dead around me, I don't need a med pack.
Why would you need a med pack when you have every weapon available at your disposal? You are perfect and fully equipped for every situation. You know exactly what to use and when and how.
Now all I can think of is my character is essentially General Grievous.
Is there anything else?
I guess the last thing is
much.
I have to give Bethesda a ton of credit for how polished this game is. There are still bugs that is not just, but I was having a deep conversation with someone the other day on game bugs and ratios. And it's the bugs in video games come down to the ratio of what they are. Like, is it the haha, that was hilarious, or is it crap, my game crashed for the 17th time? Like, and you have to obviously put the fun meter in there too, because if I'm not having any fun with the game, then it's very easy for a bug to pop up and be like, okay, this is over. So I feel like that's kind of your two things that you go on, is like, how fun is the game and
Venn
how bad is the bug?
of
My Venn,
bugs
yeah.
versus fun, yes.
Yes. So that's where it kind of is. Cyberpunk fell into the hole of it was so broken and wasn't fun enough to get past the broken because there were still worse issues in the design of the game and where people weren't having as much fun with it. It seems like they've completely gotten past that because they've eliminated so many bugs and they've been able to develop the game to the vision that they had set out in what they were trying to build. So it sounds like they've managed to eliminate the bugs and make it more fun. Starfield, all of the game is so much fun, and like it is definitely the most polished Bethesda game. Like I didn't fall through the map in 24 hours. That's a pretty huge accomplishment when it comes to a Bethesda game from some of the bugs. I didn't run into moments where I could not move forward in the game because of a bug, which again, another huge thing. I had one.
Yep.
Yeah, I had one crash on one or two crashes on PC, but that was partially because I was running things on like ultra. Like I was running things on very, very high settings where I was making that more of a chance because I was running my equipment a lot harder. So it was probably more my equipment necessarily than the game. I had some fun bugs. Like one of the first things I had was in the first 10 minutes, there's a robot that you meet called Vasco. He's one of the companions that you can have. I did the first fight, and then I walked over to have a conversation with Barrett, one of the main companion characters, and Vasco was still making all of the shooting noises that he makes as his specific robotic shooting noises, and they were loud. So like they dulled down when I got into the dialogue and conversation, like because you could tell it was intentional of blanking out everything around you so you can do dialogue. Soon as I got out of it, it's still like all this. Like I would go up into the ship, and thankfully, doing the loading screen, it reset the noise. So thankfully, very quick. There was another moment, and I think they actually did patch this in the day one patch, where I went into I was doing a main mission, and I was in the headquarters of the faction that you're with, and most of the people inside were bald. Like it was the straight, like you could tell there was supposed to be hair there, like because you could see a bit of an outline of where it should be, but it wasn't there. And it was just funny. Like you going around talking to people like, oh, everybody's got alopecia in this society, I guess. And like it even followed me into one of the main missions with one of the characters in the lodge. Like I went to a whole entire different city And then we went into a play. We went up into a place and talked with his wife, who was also bald at that point, and it was just funny. So I'm just sitting there
Careful
laughing.
now, Will Smith will come for you.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny, just the way that it happened.
Chris Rock
There
thought
was-
it was funny too.
I walked into, what was it? Another room and just looked to the right, and there was a dude who was just like halfway through the floor, just kind of sitting there just looking at me. And I'm like, it's just
Yeah.
that you
Floor
walk
glitches
in
are
and you
funny.
just start laughing because you just did not expect that to happen.
Oh.
I will send y'all the screenshot at some point because I've got it. I said again, little things like that. There's a little bit of pop in when I was landing on some planets, where some of the cities where you had a lot going on, there was a little bit of pop in with some of the loading and stuff, which I will tell people, sadly, on the Xbox, the loading screens, I don't remember necessarily earlier in the game, but especially later in the game. I don't know if it's save bloat or something. It's over a minute to cold open your save.
Really?
Over a minute that you're stuck on the loading screen from the opening your save for the first time.
Oh, because I think I was watching one of the gameplay videos, and I think it's loading shaders and things.
Oh,
like
okay.
That.
That's like PC. Like at the very beginning,
Was that
I've never
Oh.
had to reload a shader.
Because I know Borderlands 3 had that very same problem on Xbox One, where it's just like there's just so much stuff to load, particularly shaders.
And I'm assuming that's probably
Forever.
part of it is just loading in all the stuff that's a part of the game. But it was over a minute to load on the Xbox Series X, to cold open from the main menu from the very beginning, and then it was 30 plus seconds if I was like, say, fast traveling to different cities.
What about off of quick resume?
Quick resume seems like it works just fine, as far as I remember, and that's partially because it's just the game is already loaded, is in a loaded state. So, but like I said, loading a save from the main menu
Right.
after you just started it, that's over a minute, and then fast travel. I don't know that it's every fast travel, but I know that several of them were 30 plus seconds. So you'll have a second to check your Twitter, Facebook, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But
I got back to those days.
And I don't mean it like in a bad thing. Like it's still pretty fast. It's just compared to like when I play some other games, cold opens are in 10, 15 seconds. It doesn't take that long. This is just noticeable. That's the only thing I can say about it is noticeable. Does it ruin the game? Absolutely not. The game's great. It's just noticeable. And there's a lot of great stuff that loads in. The game has some great attention to detail. It's definitely one of the prettiest Bethesda games. We already talked about the NPCs being very much looking a lot better than they have in previous Bethesda affairs. So I'm happy.
All right. Well, before we end it, I have to ask, because this is probably one of the most important things. This is one of the things developers always, do. This determines really how good a game and how much developers care. How is the title screen?
Oh, I mean, it's 0 out of 10. I would give it negative points if I could.
See?
No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's.
I hope you were
Okay.
you understood the joke I was making there.
I did. Oh, I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Oh, I did. It is. It's so funny the things people get fixated on when they're trying to trash something. It's like, who cares? I'm not going to be at the loading. I'm not going to be at the start screen for very long. Oh,
At least
something that
60
is really, something that is really cool. There is a photo mode in the game, and
That makes sense.
the photos you take and that are in your like photo mode library, because it doesn't just screenshot them to your Xbox, it screenshots them into a library. Those actually are your loading screens. Like they actually you get your own screenshots
Oh, that's really cool.
for your loading
cool.
screens. Yeah,
Nice little
just
touch.
just a little neat little thing that I really like.
Yeah. No, I hope people's pictures are good. Because you're going to have to stare at them for about 30 seconds. Okay.
Starfield.
I'm
It's
excited
so
to
much
play it.
bigger than what we've talked about is the thing. Like I've said it before, this game is just it's almost impossible to review this game in the sense of talk about everything. There's certain things I cannot talk about
Well, not
in
yet.
this because of spoilers. Like there's some
Right,
things
yeah.
that you won't talk about, but there's some things I legit cannot talk about that they said do not talk about this. So,
Yeah. Well,
but
after a
it's
few
cool.
weeks, yeah, we'll talk about it. Well, especially after September 6th. But
Yeah.
I definitely want to get some time in with it. Try to get some stuff squared away. Pause on my Street Fighter 6 and Overwatch playing and focus on this. Maybe
I'm
squeeze
excited to see everyone's reactions. Like once they get into the game, like that's how you know it's a good game. Is you're like, I want to see how other people are reacting. Like that was the part of the fun with Tears of the Kingdom. What are other people doing in this?
I think that I think this is one of those games, and that's what makes it so much fun. It is one of those games where I do wish it had some kind of co-op to it, because it just feels like one of those games that would flourish as minimally as like a two-player co-op game. But there's absolutely so many ways to share on the internet and get people's reactions and whatnot, or even just with friends. Like it is absolutely one of those games. So that part is exciting still. But yeah, Starfield. I'm looking forward to playing it. Noah, I know you're looking forward to playing it.
Yep.
So even though you got a PlayStation, no.
Someday, right?
He can come if he really wants to play it. He can come over here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we'll end it here. It's an hour and a half, so yeah, that'll do it. We're going to talk about this again because we're still under some mild embargo stuff. So post September 6th, we'll definitely talk more Starfield. We'll probably talk about it in a couple of weeks. Give some more time. More time for you to digest some things, David, and then more time for Noah and I to ingest anything in the first place.
Anything and everything.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you later.
Peace.